There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. There's expected to be a press conference today in regards to the family of Rex Heuermann. And many people have commented, many people have watched this all unfold, and the fact that they have nothing to do with the fact that the husband of Ella Ellerup and the father of Victoria Heuermann and Christopher Sheridan is an accused serial killer. And as such, the police enforced several search warrants. And one, of course, which is probably the subject of today's press conference, was the one at their home. The one at their home that destroyed property, destroyed walls, destroyed their tub. Apparently their home was left in a shambles. And we all feel for them. They had nothing to do with this. And they've been displaced. Their world has been seriously affected. But on the other side of that coin, what is expected for the police to do in serving a search warrant or enforcing a search warrant upon the home of an alleged serial killer? What they're looking for is evidence in this horrific case that will tie this person, Rex Heuermann, the alleged Long Island serial killer, to these horrific cases, and also cases that remain unprosecuted. Cases perhaps of missing persons that we are unaware of. So what were the police looking for? We spoke in numerous episodes what they were looking for and why in any search warrant the police are never gentle and are never required to make the home whole again. And I believe there is recourse for the family, and that's what they're doing right now. They've hired attorneys, and what they're going to do is they're all going to sue in order to be made whole. And that includes Asa Ellerup, the wife of Rex Heuermann, who incidentally, shortly after Rex's arrest, filed for divorce within approximately 10 days of that. And the children, Victoria Heuermann, who worked with Rex Heuermann at his architectural firm in New York City, and his son, Christopher Sheridan. Now, all of them, again, had nothing to do with this, yet they're suffering because of this. And that's what apparently the press conference is going to talk about today. Let me play a little bit of this from News 12.
We have an update from the family of the suspect in 3 of the Gilgo Beach murders. Their attorneys will be the ones talking at a press conference to update the media. News 12's Krista McNally is in Islip Terrace, where the press conference will be held.
That's right. This afternoon, we are hearing from the attorneys for Rex Heuermann's family. Now, that is his wife, Asa Ellerup, and his 2 adult children. His son is 34-year-old Christopher Sheridan, and his daughter is 26-year-old Victoria Heuermann. Now, the attorneys representing their family have spoken to News 12 in the past, and they tell us that the family, who is now living back in the Massapequa Park home, found their home in total disarray when they got back after investigators were combing through that house for about 2 weeks' time. As you'll remember, Heuermann is being accused of killing 3 of the women in the Gilgo Beach murders. We talked with the attorney for the 2 children earlier this week, and he says what the 2 of them are like.
Victoria was an avid gamer. She liked to play the PS5. Obviously that she can't do anymore. They found the PS5 in 2 pieces. Her Magic the Gathering cards, which were worth a lot of money, are destroyed. Christopher is a gentle soul. He likes, walking around, spending time with the family pet.
Now, today, we are expecting to get some new photos of inside of the Heuermann home, as well as photos of the family. Again, the family will not be here. And as News 12 has reported, the wife also filed for divorce 6 days after Rex Heuermann was arrested. As we get any new developments, we'll bring them to you right here on News 12. That's the latest from Islip Terrace. Krista McNally, News 12.
Have a family of the suspect in 3.
So, folks, that's apparently what the subject of the press conference will be today. I mean, we've all seen photographs of the interior of that house. And of course, yes, it was wrecked. And I don't mean to be so cavalier, but what do you expect the police to do when they're executing a search warrant on a serial killer? Again, again, the family had nothing to do with it. Will they be made whole? Yeah, probably their attorneys will see to that they'll be made whole. But it's, I just don't know what is expected today. And there's interest in this, of course, because this is a human story, and as we said, the families had nothing to do with this. And we can only imagine, and we've reported numerous times on our show, how was the family treated by Rex Heuermann? I can't imagine that there was not some type of abuse going on, psychological, physical abuse. I can't imagine that he could live this life, this secret life, as a serial killer, a patronizer of sex workers, a searcher of child porn, and treat his family in a manner that was consistent with a good father as we would know it. I'm going to play you a little bit of Asa Ellerup's attorney. His name is Robert Macedonio.
As you can imagine, even if any percentage of the allegations that have been in the media are true, it's been an irreparable breakdown of the marriage.
The lawyer for the wife of suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann talks about what her life has been like since his arrest and why she filed for divorce. I'm Anjanette Levy. Welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. Asa Ellerup's life was turned upside down nearly 3 weeks ago when her husband, Rex Heuermann, was taken into custody for the murders of 3 women whose remains were found on Long Island's Gilgo Beach many years ago. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amberlynn Costello. Their bodies were found wrapped in camouflage burlap along Oceanside Parkway in 2010. The DA says Heuermann's DNA was found in the burlap along with the DNA of his wife. Heuermann is also the prime suspect in the murder of Maureen Brainard-Barnes. 8 sets of remains were found on Gilgo Beach in 2010 and 2011, including an Asian male and a toddler. The others were women. Ellerup, her daughter, and son went back to their home in Massapequa Park last week after police searched it for more than a week. Her attorney shared photos with us from inside the home. It shows what it looks like following the search, and frankly, it's a complete mess. Ellerup filed for divorce following her husband's arrest, but that doesn't mean she's not in contact with him. Here's Heuermann's attorney Michael Brown outside of the courthouse this week.
He's had contact with his wife, yes, and family members. I don't think she's visited yet, obviously.
Folks, just so you know, Michael Brown is what we refer to in the law enforcement business as an 18B attorney. And he's not legal aid. That's a section of private attorneys that put in to get cases from the state, from indigent defendants that can't pay. And as you can see, he appears to be a lawyer of a high level of skill. He's quite articulate. He's quite sharp looking. He looks good. He speaks well. So it isn't, when people say, oh, is this another legal aid attorney? And I don't wish to put down legal aid because legal aid has some outstanding attorneys too. But perhaps not as experienced in most cases as this attorney, Michael Brown here.
Because she doesn't want to be ambushed by the press. So she hasn't visited him at the jail yet. No.
Brown also spoke about what Heuermann has told him about the murders and his arrest.
What has my client told me? He told me he didn't do this. This district attorney's office has a whole office. They're the biggest law firm in this county. I'm one guy, right? So Ms. Koish is going to be co-counsel on this. We have other attorneys that I expect are going to be assisting on this. And just to pour through the discovery is an enormous task. There's no plea deal. He said from the moment I met him that I did not do this. So we're prepared to go forward. We will defend this case in a court of law, and we will go to trial on this case.
But the district attorney has said that they are confident that Heuermann is their man.
This is a 13-year case, so as you saw, we have a great deal of information, evidence, photographs, reports to provide to the defense counsel. We've begun that process. I think it was 8 gigabytes of material, which is a tremendous amount. And that's just the beginning. We're going to continue to do that on a rolling basis. And, this case, the charges in the indictment are just allegations. So this is the first step in the process of proving those allegations. So we look forward to undertaking that process.
Meanwhile, media and true crime enthusiasts have swarmed the neighborhood in Massapequa Park, where Heuermann lives, out of curiosity. Law and crime producer Alyssa Fisher approached Ellerup to see if there was anything she'd like to say.
She looked exhausted, to say the least. Just bloodshot. Her lips were pale. She looked like she, I'm sure, had maybe just woken up from a nap. She was in loungewear. She just looked sad as she said, "No, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in speaking right now." And completely understandable. She's had a really difficult few weeks.
Joining me to discuss the impact that the arrest of Rex Heuermann has had on his family is the attorney representing his wife, his now estranged wife, Asa Ellerup. Bob Macedonia, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
You know, folks, I just want to also mention that in this litigious world of ours, each member of the family, believe it or not, has their own attorney. And the attorney we're going to hear speaking right now, Robert Macedonio, is the attorney for Asa Ellerup, who is Rex Heuermann's wife. Victoria Heuermann has her own attorney, and Christopher Sheridan, a gentleman named Mr. Vess and Mr. Mittev. So they each have their own attorneys. Now, is this because, maybe the attorneys can explain this, is this because each one of them will be seeking unspecified damages from, of course, the police are an agent of the government. So they'll undoubtedly be suing the Suffolk County Police, the Suffolk County, I believe attorneys know who to sue, but they'll be suing the Suffolk County Police, perhaps the Suffolk County DA's office, the FBI. They'll make every single agency a plaintiff in this case. But interesting to me that instead of one attorney, for example, perhaps Robert Macedonio, representing all 3 members of the Heuermann family, they each have their own separate attorney. Quite, I think, a bit interesting.
For having me, I appreciate it.
Bob, first of all, how did you come to represent Asa Ellerup? Have you known her for a long time, or did you just meet her through your current representation?
We met her through a current representation. We were retained on a Saturday morning after her husband was arrested, just to be a buffer between her and the police department and handle all communications between her and the DA's office and the police department. And then we followed up with discussing the marital issues and filing for the divorce.
So you're representing her on a number of fronts.
Correct. We are her attorneys for all the matters right now.
Okay. Why did she decide to file for divorce? I think the answer may seem obvious to many people, but this is still somebody she has spent decades of her life with. So I'm sure this has come as a shock.
It's come as a shock, but as you can imagine, even if any percentage of the allegations that have been in the media are true, it's been an irreparable breakdown of the marriage, and she just needs to move forward, protecting herself at this point. It's going to take years for her husband's matters to play out in court, and honestly, we just need to protect her and have her move forward as quick as we can.
And when you say protect her, what do you mean by that?
She's obviously whatever liability he may be involved with civilly, we don't want to be responsible for any of that. She's not involved in any of this. She needs to make decisions as an independent person, not being a married person, protect her and her children, and just honestly move forward, putting her life back together. Her life has been thrown into complete upheaval.
I was going to ask you, how is she doing? We see the photographs of her in the news on media websites. And I mean, I didn't know her before this happened. None of us did, but she definitely looks stressed, as you would imagine she would be, and probably like she hasn't slept in weeks.
She's emotionally and physically exhausted. Like you said, she hasn't slept in weeks. It goes where you can't get an hour or two of sleep here or there. There's not been a full night sleep that's gone on. Since they returned to the home, the media bangs on the door throughout the days, even late into the night, which then gets the dog barking. And just between that and her children, crying themselves to sleep at night, they're in their 20s and 30s, but still, this is a traumatic event for the entire family. For her, and I mean her and her two children. I'm not speaking about her husband, what they're going through right now. And they're innocent victims in this whole matter.
I was going to ask you about that. People always speculate and ask questions. Did she know anything? Was she involved? Did the family have any inkling whatsoever? And it's been reported, and in the bail application, it said that Asa was out of town when these alleged murders, they're murders, but when his alleged involvement occurred in these crimes. Is there anything she's shared with you that you can share with us that indicates that she may be looking back and hindsight's 2020?
She has no independent knowledge of even the dates and times that they're alleging these crimes to take place. The only thing that we've gained from this is what the media has put out. The DA's bail application, as you just stated, eliminates her from being in the jurisdiction when these crimes are committed. They, I'm sure, have extensively investigated that prior to making that statement, or they wouldn't have ruled her out in their bail application. So I'm confident that she had no idea any of this was going on and was not involved in any of it.
Has she indicated that their marriage was a happy one? I mean, I find it hard to believe if Rex Heuermann is indeed found to be responsible for these homicides, that there wasn't any behavior toward the family that might have been, maybe strange or violent. I just don't know.
No indication of any, violence in the marriage between her and him. And again, if it's found to be true that he did this, it was a complete double life that she was unaware of. She's a homemaker. She raised the two children. She's a homemaker.
Guys, we discussed this numerous times on the show, and I find it difficult to believe, with my 27 years in law enforcement, that there were no signs that he was this savage who he purportedly seems to be. I know he's innocent until proven guilty, but there's evidence even on his computer that show him to be a despicable human being, searching child porn sites, sadistic, sexual sadistic sites, all kinds of things that show that he is who they're saying he is. Mike Geary always uses the term consciousness of guilt, and the whole use of burner phones to call these sex workers. That's what Professor Mike Geary would refer to as consciousness of guilt. What we in the real true crime community refer to that as is premeditation, because he's trying to make it difficult for the police to capture him. He's trying to cover his trails. Why else would someone use a burner phone? If they were a straight up regular citizen, they would just use their own cell phone. But guess what? He's not. He's not. And then there's a lot of talk, of course. I don't believe Asa Ellerup is involved at all. I don't believe anyone in the family is involved. I believe that Rex Heuermann did in fact lead this double life where he was able to be this Long Island serial killer, Lisk, they refer to him as. So far, he's been arrested and charged with the murders of 3 women. There's the slide up on the screen. And these women here have been called the Gilgo Four: Maureen Brainard-Barnes, Melissa Bartolome, Amberlynn Costello, and Megan Waterman. Now, he's been charged with the 3, Melissa Bartolome, Amberlynn Costello, and Megan Waterman. However, the police, the Suffolk County District Attorney, the Suffolk County detectives, the FBI, the New York State Police investigators, and the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, they have all been working on the case, of course, of Maureen Brainard-Barnes to try to add that case to the indictment. And we believe shortly, in a short amount of time, he's going to be charged with that 4th case. And, there's a long trail, a convoluted trail on how we got here, how the Suffolk County Police got here, how the people from Long Island got here who have feared this serial killer since the bodies were discovered in, I believe it was 2010. So they've been fearing why was it taking this long? And all of that in connection with this investigation is going to be revealed someday. The spotlight will be shined upon it as this case moves forward. And then a lot of people, I hear people talking or read people talking in the chat. Well, how did her hair get on, or in the burlap, the camouflage burlap that were wrapped in a bottle? How did her hair get on that? And we've spoken about that numerous times on the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories podcast, that there's something called transfer evidence that is transferred. Locard's, Dr. Edmund Locard's principle of exchange. You go into a crime scene, you bring something in from the outside. You leave that crime scene, you take something from that crime scene with you. And that's why painstaking effort has been used. Okie dokie, yeah, you could call it transfer of evidence, right? Evidence transfer. And that's what we've been harping on. So that doesn't mean that Asa Ellerup had anything to do with it, because 3 of her hairs were found on the bodies, or a hair on each of the 3 bodies, and 1 hair from Rex Heuermann. But what it does mean is that that evidence was transferred from their home onto the burlap bags, perhaps on Rex Heuermann's person, and transferred onto the burlap bags. What better evidence is that to show that someone is involved in this? What are the odds that a hair from the accused could get on one of the bodies? How can a defense attorney explain that? I mean, they will try to. They will say, "Oh, where the burlap bags were stored, he could have come in contact with it." We've seen this defense used also in the Idaho case, the Brian Koberger case, where something called touch DNA was left on the knife sheath. But because this is hairs, it's subject to something called mitochondrial DNA, which the advances in that technology have moved ahead generations. So just to show how Asa Ellerup is not specifically involved, but yes, hairs from her head wound up being on the body.
Raise the 2 children, and that's it.
We saw that there was a GoFundMe page started for her to raise some money for her and her family by the daughter of a serial killer. How is she feeling about somebody who's been through this before doing something nice for her on her behalf?
And she feels good about it. If anybody knows what Asa is going through, it would be someone that's lived through it. We could all give our opinion and all try to comfort as much as we possibly, can. But the young woman that started the GoFundMe for her has lived it. Her family's lived it. She's suffered the public, scorn of her dad being known as the happy face killer, and has been very supportive throughout this since the beginning.
Tell me about the children, if you would. I saw a photograph on, I think, on Newsday's website of her daughter Victoria and Asa. I would assume in your office. I don't know that, but it looked like they were in some type of office.
I think they were in my office. Yes.
Yeah. What are they? What are they like?
They're doing better. They're doing better as the days go on. In the early time, it was just a complete, emotional upheaval of their entire lives. Just hour by hour, trying to process what actually happened and trying to retrace what life was like when these alleged crimes happened, which is almost impossible for any of us to put a timeline together. What were we doing 10 years ago today? I don't know. I couldn't tell you without really exhaustively going through any documents or any items I may have to remind me of that. So people are trying to do that. And all those documents or anything they would be able to do that with have been taken out of the house.
Your staff shared photos with us of the interior of the house. And I don't know what it looked like before, but it seriously looks like a tornado has torn through there. Did the police do all of that in their search? Or, were there things kind of laying around before that? Or
No,
tell me.
The police went through every item in that house to the point of even emptying cat litter boxes out.
Folks, I think that I apologize for the music playing in the background. I got to see which one that is and turn it off. But there we go. We found it. So I apologize for that. I think that the police probably smartly, before they enforced the warrant, took pictures of the interior of the house. And apparently the house was extremely, to use the words that the police said, cluttered before they enforced the warrant. So perhaps they didn't we may see a house that looks like it was hit by a tornado. How do we know what it looked like before they enforced the warrant? Maybe it looked like that way before it. So it would have been very smart, and I'm sure they, being professional investigators, they would have taken photographs of the interior house before the warrant was enforced. That would only make sense. And again, because right now, of course, they're going to say, oh, the police destroyed this house. And look, did they destroy some things? You bet. Did they have to break into the tub? Yes. They were looking perhaps to search the drains. They were looking perhaps to search underneath the tub. They were looking for all kinds of different evidentiary things. And we hear the term all the time in regards to this case of the word trophy, the trophy. And what is a trophy? Again, a trophy in regard to a serial killer is an item that the killer took off one of the victims. And reluctantly will they ever let go of it, because when they get to touch it again or look at it again, it allows them to relive the circumstances of what occurred. It allows them to relive what happened. And believe it or not, many serial killers go back to the scene of the crime for the same reason, to relive the feeling, the sick feeling of killing someone. And I wouldn't doubt that Rex Heuermann did that he went back. How Gilgo was 35 minutes from his house in Massapequa Park. How many times? The conference is on right now, guys. Okay, let me see if I can get the press conference. It's let's see. I'm going to try to get the News 12 press conference. Okay. I apologize, guys. I'm not. Is it the News 12? Let's see. I apologize, guys. I'm searching for it right now as we speak. Okay. I should be able to get it up in a second, so I apologize. I'm not having any luck pulling it up right now, guys. What if you could tell me in the chat? Someone either put a link or tell me what station it's Court TV. No, it's News 12. I'm trying to search News 12. I'm not finding it. Okay, I got it, guys. I got it.
Come out to the donations, the people that have sent care packages, the people that have sent money, the people that have stopped by and given them well wishes. And we've spoken, I think, in the press for the last few days about why and how it's so important that this family has competent and capable legal representation. And Mr. Macedonio and his firm and my firm, obviously, we're going to keep doing that because they have, as we've said before, rights and liberties that need to be protected. Okay, they all have that. ASA has that. The children have that. As this investigation continues, obviously the district attorney's office is releasing new information every day. It's going to be a very long process. So what they're asking you all to keep in mind that it's going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is going to continue. This case is going to be a very long time in the making. And through that process, obviously, we've talked about in the past few days that the law requires them, in order to preserve those legal rights and remedies, to file certain legal documents at certain intervals. If they don't do that, they will have waived those rights in the public forum. So we are, at this point, announcing that the children and Ms. Ellerup, on her behalf, are going to be protecting those legal rights and remedies by filing what's called a notice of claim. That notice of claim is going to be filed within the next 30 days, and that obviously is a legal prerequisite to filing a lawsuit, and it has to be done because otherwise those rights are waived. And that's what's going to happen. When it happens, obviously, we'll let you all know. We'll let you folks know what the content of it is, but that's the announcement that we have to make. In closing, I'd like to echo my colleagues' statements. At this time, the family, again, requests truly and honestly that their rights and liberties have to be protected. And a part of that, again, is that their focus is on their basic needs, their food, their water, their shelter, their clothing, okay? And that's their paramount concern right now. It is those basic human needs that all of us have that have been ripped apart from them. So we ask you again, please respect their privacy. Please know that they're going through a horrific emotional time that none of us could imagine, and let the legal process run its course. Thank you. It's Vess, V-E-S-S, last name is Mitev, M-I-T-E-V. Again, that will be set forth in the notice of claim, but clearly it's going to be preserving the rights against law enforcement investigations and officials and investigators that were present at the scene. That's standard. Again, I wouldn't ask that you read into it too much, but that notice of claim is going to be filed. It's a legal prerequisite to filing a lawsuit, which they have to file in order to preserve their rights.
Was the Nassau County Police Department involved in wrecking the house?
At this point in time, we're not sure what law enforcement were involved in actually entering the premises and which were involved with securing the streets and that. So we'll file the notice of claim. It'll probably list all the agencies. And then once the investigation's done, we'll narrow it down and see if there's any kind of lawsuit that can be proceeded after that. It was piled floor to ceiling with debris that was just taken out of the attics of every closet, every inch of the house. There was a path probably a foot or two wide to get from the front door to the kitchen, and that was the way through the house. The children and Asa were sleeping on really foam mats on the floor next to the dog bed where the dog was sleeping also. In addition, I forgot to mention, there was 3 cats that were taken when the police executed the search warrant, taken to the animal shelter, local town of Oyster Bay animal shelter, which was going to euthanize them if they were not picked up by a certain time. We had those cats removed, voluntarily transported out to the Bidewee, West Hampton, and they're going to be maintained there until they're adopted out by loving families.
Bob, Rex Heuermann pleaded not guilty. Does his family believe?
The only thing his family knows about these charges is what's been reported in the media. They have not discussed it with him. They haven't addressed it with him, and that's our instructions in them now. We haven't had that conversation. Frankly, it doesn't matter. I need to get Asa back to being mentally healthy, to protect herself and her own children. She has to prepare this for at least the next couple of years before this case is litigated in the courts.
Has he visited him in the jail?
She has not visited him in the jail. No, they have not. We have not been contacted. That was prior to our representation if it happened, and we have not been consulted or contacted by law enforcement. And let me reiterate, Asa or the children are not suspects in this. I think the DA's office and the law enforcement has made that clear. They've stated on several occasions they were out of the jurisdiction when these alleged crimes took place. So she is not a suspect. She's not been questioned. She's not been accused of anything, of being an accomplice or any part associated with whatever her husband's accused of.
Mr. Macedonia, in light of the fact that Suffolk County has proven to frame people, do you think there's any possibility that Rex Heuermann has been framed?
So I'm not even going to address that. I'm not the law enforcement. I trust they're going to do their job diligently and professionally. So
But you just admitted they're lying.
Mr. Macedonia, how do you explain your client not having any knowledge of what was going on?
Okay, you're assuming that all the allegations are true. So if, for some of your questions, they're true, he lived a complete double life. One of the photos that was released to you that you'll have momentarily will show the house at Christmas time with a Christmas tree and stockings hung by the fireplace at the alleged same time he's alleged to have gone out and committed these serial murders and buried the girls up in Gilgo. So if it happened, it was a complete double life. I assure you she knew nothing about it. They have been released already. You should have them. Your agency should all have them. They were sent out.
You were talking about the drain pipes that have been taken out that they're sleeping on the floor.
Yes.
Is there running water in the home?
The water is running, but the drain pipes, if you run the water, the sink just drops down and goes right down to the basement. There's no, the plumbing has been repaired, or at least the sink's been repaired, working on the tub as we speak.
How often are you speaking with investigators? Have they been asking?
I have not spoken to investigators at all.
No.
Not at all.
Are there any appointments made?
No.
To meet with them for
No.
sort of evidence collection or anything else of any kind?
No.
If there was, would they be reaching out?
They have not reached out to us, so I can't assume what they would be doing. I'm sure they're running a professional investigation. I understand the grand jury is still impaneled, so that's their function, and we have not been reached out by them at all.
Have you talked to Asa about the fact that her DNA was at the crime scene? Does she have any theory?
Well, I think it's what's been said. They say a hair of her likeness was at the crime scene. I don't think they said DNA of hers was at the crime scene. So we
And potentially they say her hair.
of her likeness of hair. So I don't think the DNA has been proven to be hers at the crime scene.
Of her likeness. Okay. Did you talk to her husband on the phone?
Sure.
We talked about how Asa is doing and cancer. Can you talk a little bit about how Victoria and Christopher are handling?
Sure. Before that, I just want to piggyback off something Mr. Macedonia just said, and this goes back maybe 2 days, but this DNA order that was cut, okay, that's a very standard order in any kind of criminal prosecution. This was a order that was going to be granted no matter what, okay? Anytime you have a case involving DNA evidence, a buccal swab is quite standard. The state of, the laws of the state of New York are that you can be required, subject to your constitutional limitations, to provide
what's called non-testimonial evidence, hair, materials, DNA. So that order was completely pro forma. I understand it was reported in the media as this groundbreaking, earth-shaking moment in the case, but it's not. It gets cut in every case, and if it wasn't ordered, it would have been immediately created an appealable issue. So back to your question, obviously, they're as we've said before, every moment that they spend in this waking, surreal nightmare, they have to keep reevaluating where they are, okay? Their valuables were shattered, their beds were destroyed, the places that they laid their heads down at night no longer exist. The reason that they spend so much time outside and why you folks photograph them on the porch is because they can't be inside. The house is in shambles, it's ransacked, it was run over through roughshod, okay? So it's not as if they don't want to be inside their house, but the conditions inside are deplorable, and they were left in a deplorable condition. So how are they doing? Again, we go back to what we need as humans. We need food, water, clothing, shelter, a roof over our heads, a place to lay our heads down at night. All of those things they were deprived of summarily without any warning, and every day that goes by, again, kindness of strangers, and we appreciate that, they help get back a little bit of normalcy. But it's not going to be enough. Every dollar counts. Obviously, they have a long way to go. It's not going to be enough today. It's not going to be enough tomorrow. It's not going to be enough for months, maybe years. So in order to piece back what's been crumbled into a million pieces is going to take a very long time. And they need all that. And that's what humans need.
A murder case with multiple victims. Is now the appropriate time to talk about the condition of Heuermann's house?
It's absolutely the appropriate time to talk about the condition of Heuermann's house and children. Again, they're innocent bystanders in this. And that's, again, we cannot stress that enough because of what has happened here, and it's of unimaginable magnitude. They're caught up in this. They're victims just as much. They disagree, or you might consider that there were horrific things that are alleged to have been happened, but an allegation and a conviction are quantum leaps apart. So yes, they are victims, and yes, they are innocent bystanders, and yes, their lives have been completely upended and turned upside down.
Can you speak about the relationship between the children and Rex? Were they close? Did they happen to take any family vacations? And if so, where did they go?
Again, I appreciate the question and we thank you for it. We're not here to talk about that today. We're here to give you an update, disseminate some new photos, which I think will give you a better idea. A picture's worth 1,000 words, obviously, as to what the house was, what their life was like. It's contained in those pictures as well, but we're not going to talk about that. And obviously to announce that we are going to be exercising their legal rights and remedies by filing the notices of claim. Thank you.
Sorry, you cannot call the jail. The jails have to be outgoing only from the jail. So there's no.
Spoken over the phone?
They're spoken over the phone. Yeah, like I've stated, all those jail calls are recorded. So we've instructed her, and I'm sure his attorneys instructed him not to discuss the facts of the case. It just doesn't benefit either party.
So he's called her.
That's the only way the call can happen.
Has Dr. Ellerup explained to you a reason for filing for divorce?
Of course, I discussed that with her, and at some point in time, she'll make her statements on why she feels it was appropriate to do that.
Did she give you any attorney John Ray represents
Okay, Johnny Ray is trying to keep himself relevant in this case. He has a victim, and he's been on TV for the last 10 years trying to get any kind of press he can on this and make himself relevant in this case. I can assure you, Asa Ellerup and her 2 children are not suspects in this case. They shouldn't be suspects in this case. I wholeheartedly trust the DA's investigation that eliminated them. So I don't know what Johnny Ray's purpose is in doing that, but like I said, trying to keep himself relevant in this matter.
I know you said that they're not suspects in this case, but what can you say about how they're assisting in the investigation?
They're not assisting at all. We've never been contacted.
Is there any desire to do that? So you're not suspects. Do they want to go above and beyond?
Again, if this happened, it was a complete double life. They have no information to provide. But again, they're not suspects. They haven't been questioned. I do not believe they have any relevant information, or they would have been questioned already and called into the grand jury.
And they have nothing to offer investigation.
Complete double life.
I was going to ask about the notice of claim. Her husband has told his lawyer he didn't treat this.
We haven't gotten to that discussion on it. We don't know what he told his lawyer. Again, she hasn't had that conversation with him, and we instructed her not to.
Want to go back to the notice of claim for a second?
Yeah, she has not even asked him. We told her to ignore.
Speaking is Robert Macedonio, the attorney for Elsa Ellerup, the wife of Rex Heuermann, and the other attorney is Ves Mitev. These are the civil attorneys suing in regards to a notice of claim against the Suffolk County Police Department.
For all that, ignore the media reports, things that are reported in the media. A soundproof room. Everybody reported that. That is not true. So everybody ran with that story that he had this sex dungeon downstairs in his house with a soundproof room where he was bringing prostitutes and murdering them and then burying them on Gilgo Beach. There is no soundproof room in that house. So we cannot believe everything that's been reported in the media. We've told her that and instructed her that
So you mean the media is being lied to
get
by the DA's
herself
office?
get herself mentally healthy, and then so she could be there for her children who are suffering through this.
The notice of claim, what are the grounds for that? Can you tell us what you're going to be alleging in there?
There are certain rights that they have to protect within a 90-day period of a notice of claim, the property damage that was done. If you don't file that notice of claim within 90 days, you lose the right to pursue it at a later date. So we're just going to protect those
on the property damage.
It's just going to protect those rights, and that's it.
Based on
Whether or not a lawsuit will be pursued will be addressed later on. But you have to file a notice of claim within a 90-day period, or you waive it. Okay? No, I do not. I do not. Okay?
In your opinion, has the civil rights of this family been violated?
If my opinion, I didn't think they were, we would not be filing a notice of claim. Okay? Thank you. I don't know the exact date of marriage. 96? Okay.
How did she lawyer up with you so quick? Who recommended you? Did you call her or did she call you?
Listening to a news conference.
This is the end of basically the end of the news conference, and really all it was a notice of claim that the attorneys, Asa Ellerup, and for Victoria Heuermann and Christopher Sheridan, the son and the daughter of Rex Heuermann, they're filing a notice of claim, which they have 90 days from the incident to do. Their intention of suing. I believe it would be they'll probably name all the law enforcement entities as plaintiffs in this case. So that's not unusual. So, but it would seem that the main subject of this lawsuit would be the Suffolk County Police Department, since I would imagine that the search warrant was written in the name of a detective, an investigator from the Suffolk County Police Department, even though the house was in Nassau County. Massapequa Park is part of Nassau County. So that, a lot of questions were being asked by the media. And it seems like the main question is, what was her involvement? Was she involved in this? And we've answered that numerous times also. No, she was not involved. And then people say, part B to that is always people want to say, well, then how did her hair get on 3 of the bodies of the Gilgo Beach victims? And I think that I answered that pretty extensively earlier when we spoke about transfer evidence and how the evidence either the burlap bags were either inside the house and somehow got Asa Ellerup's hair on them, or Rex Heuermann had Asa Ellerup's hair on his body, and that was transferred to these burlap bags which the victims were wrapped in. That's transfer evidence. And we spoke about that numerous times on this show. And, many folks, they keep asking, well, then how? Well, that's how her hair got on the victims' bodies. Or another chance was that could the victims have been killed inside the house? And that hair evidence was transferred in that way. That's a possibility. All those things are possibilities. And, this was basically about, again, the civil lawsuit, the notice of claim that these attorneys filed based, on the rights being violated. And as they said over and over again, somewhat ad nauseum, the fact that they need to be made whole. Every human being needs shelter, clothing, food, right? And a place to sleep, all those things, which is part of shelter. And that's what they kept enumerating. And according to these attorneys, Robert Macedonio, who is the attorney for Asa Ellerup, and Bess Mitev, who is the attorney for the children of Rex Heuermann, Victoria Heuermann and Christopher Sheridan. And they're filing a notice of claim within 90 days of this event, which is a requirement by law of their intention to sue. And the intention of that is to make them whole, to get them money to live, and if their house was destroyed by the police, to fix the house. We spoke about what did the house look like prior to the warrant. I don't know. And I said it would have been smart if the police would have taken photos of the house prior to the execution of the search warrant. Did they do that? I don't know. Again, so they're showing you pictures inside the house post warrant. So what did the house look like pre-warrant? That's what many people would want to know. Was the house in a state of disrepair, a state of clutter before that? But that's neither here nor there. They're suing, and they have the right to sue again to make those Asa Ellerup, Victoria, and Christopher, the adult children, to make them whole through a lawsuit. Yeah, they're suing the police and the taxpayers' money. Yeah, we'll pay the lawsuit if it's found in favor of Asa Ellerup and her two children. The attorneys involved here, Robert Macedonio, again, he kept talking about how he has nothing to do with the criminal part of this case. What he has something to do with is the civil part of this case. And for that reason, he reiterates that Asa Ellerup had nothing to do with this, knew nothing of her husband's activities. He kept talking about how he lived this double life, this dual life, and she had absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's part, again, of this civil case. To prove that their rights were violated, to prove that their home was destroyed, they need to also show that she has or had absolutely nothing to do with this. And what we also always want to remember is that the victims, and someone from the press asked a question during the press conference, oh, is this really the time to talk about a civil case when there's all these victims of Rex Heuermann? And one of the attorneys perked up, and I believe it was Ves Matev, the attorney for the Heuermann children, Victoria and Christopher. Yes, this is exactly the time that we should be doing this. So he sort of put that question to bed and basically told everyone, again, two different things: the criminal case, and this is a civil lawsuit. The notice of claim, which has to be filed within 90 days of the event being the enforcement of the search warrant on the house. And I believe that's what they're suing for, because allegedly the house was destroyed. Their property was destroyed. Their cats were taken out of the house and put into an animal facility where, had they not claimed them, they were going to euthanize them. Is there damages paid for emotional stress, emotional trauma during this type of event? I'm not an attorney. I'm not sure. So, folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel membership with 5 different levels. So, folks, I apologize that I wasn't as quick to the draw on the press conference. I missed the first few minutes of it, and but we did get to it. I think we caught the gist of what they were talking about. Basically, again, to reiterate this, 2 attorneys spoke at the press conference representing Asa Ellerup and Victoria Heuermann and Christopher Sheridan. A notice of claim that they intend to sue the Suffolk County Police Department in regards to the civil matter, the violation of their rights. And in a nutshell, that's what this press conference was about. I want to thank everyone for tuning in this afternoon. It's these live press conferences. You never know exactly what you're going to get, but I think it was pretty clear what they were looking to show the public. We also have to remember that Asa Ellerup and Christopher and Victoria, they really have suffered a great deal, and they would like to be left alone. That was sort of communicated by their attorneys. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. From Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, I'm Bill Cannon. Have a great day, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.